Welcome, everybody, to Built on Behavior. I am Brooke Trometer, your host, and today's conversation is about behavior under pressure and what happens when success costs you your health, what happens when you start over with almost nothing, and what does it take to build identity level authority at a young age. So, for people that might not know you yet, who is Taylor Harrell today, and what are you building?
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Taylor. I'm the CEO and founder of BeLively Company. I started Lively in October of 2019, and Lively is named after my baby sister. We're 21 years apart. I know people are like, what? 21 years? Yes, she is now 11 years old. She is my light and she's my purpose and she's my joy. And I just wanted to create an ecosystem of strong, independent women so that if something was to ever happen to me, that Maddie, my sister, would be able to fall back on. And I I love what I'm doing, and what I'm currently creating came from a traumatic experience. I had 3 near-death experiences, all that happened in a year and a half of each other. And I'm working currently on the Legacy Conference, where I got really tired of people gatekeeping on how do you build wealth and how do you maintain it. And if there was anything that's catastrophic, like with my car accident and with my emergency surgeries, how can someone, you know, go from like no income or to like having an income, but then it get drastically cut because of something happened. And I just don't want anyone to go through what I went through, but I was also very fortunate
Mhm.
to have, I guess, a strong mindset in business and being resilient and not allowing somebody to have limiting beliefs on just moving forward and to still be a beacon of people that you can come from a really hard, challenging place in life and that you can still continue moving forward and staying resilient and speaking your truth.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's fantastic. 21 age year difference between you and your sister.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That catches me. We have not that everything else doesn't either. I mean, you just like where to start with all of that. You have such an amazing story. Yeah, I thought my age difference within my family was huge, but nothing compared to yours. My kids are 10 years apart.
Yeah, but that's a huge gap still.
Yeah, it's big, but it makes a big difference. Like there's a big relationship difference too. I think like I notice my oldest is 21 and my youngest is 11. And I find that my 21-year-old, they're definitely sisters and they definitely have their sister moments with each other, but there's also a bit of a relationship of I don't know how to put it. Almost, I don't want to say parental because they're not exactly parents, but she's not a parent, but kind of almost that hierarchy, that kind of like, I'm still going to kind of parent you. I'm still going to.
Oh, yes. My mom called me the built-in babysitter. She was like, I'll never forget when she like brought home Maddie because like even my sister getting here to be on Earth's side, she had to go through the NICU and she was over a 9-pounder baby. So she was a huge baby. And the doctors were like, "Oh, does she have like underdeveloped lungs?" My mom's like, "No, I have had textbook pregnancy." My mom had Maddie at 42
Wow.
and with my sister. And so that's why I was like, no, I feel like with Maddie coming in, like, I felt like it's one of those, like, divine timing connection because even when she was born, I was in such a dark place,
Mm,
and she brought me that light and that inner fire that I have now. So I understand, like, even with your kids, like, yes, like, I'm still, like, parenting Maddie in a way, but then just being, like reminding my parents, like, "Hey, she grew up with a bunch of adults, and yes, she's talking even when she was 5 years old with, like, full sentences and very brilliant for her age, but I'm just like, "Hey," she had the opportunity to skip, like, 2 grades, and I was, advocating for her and be like, "Hey, parents, she needs to be around kids her age and, like, let her be a kid," because in my experience, I didn't have that. I had to grow up very quickly.
mm, mhm. Were you an only child before she was born?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
were.
So that's why I was like, "Oh, Maddie was sent for a reason."
Yeah, yeah, I know it with my kids, it's almost like, they almost each had kind of an only child experience too because of that big age gap a little bit as well, with the growing up and everything. So how did having your sister kind of pull you out of what you were going through? Like, how did that kind of affect you? What was happening?
I think just being, where I didn't really have my parents, like, I've been on my own since I was 16, and living by myself and having to experience, like, a crazy landlord, like, trying to, like, illegally evict me and just going through all these hardships, and yeah,
Yeah,
it was just really tough, and I felt like it was one thing after another, and so when she was born, I felt like freedom. I knew more of my purpose. I knew why I was creating Lively. I knew why I was wanting to build this empire around her, to be protective of her in a way, but also to where there's that flexibility of having that freedom to create and being supported. Because, yes, that my grandparents raised me and they came from a small business and military and always being on the go. So I always had that mentality of like, I just can't sit and actually enjoy time off. But now that I've like flipped a script where it's like, I'm allowed, I get to.
got it. Yeah, kind of building would you say it's almost like you started building all of this to build the future for her that you kind of maybe
Yeah,
you had
that I wish that
already
I
had
had.
there for
Yes.
you? Yeah. Yeah. That's a big driver. What as you started building Be Lively, what did that kind of look like from where you were at the time when at where that kind of inception was coming about to build this? What did that path look like from kind of corporate to Be Lively?
Oh, corporate life. Yeah, so I started in hospitality. So I started with Dos Equis, and then I was with Tito's Vodka before he got big, and then opened the JW Marriott downtown in Austin, and also opened Hotel Grand Duca, which is both 5-star. Really liked it, and then they're like, "You're really good at this, like, connecting with people and, like, talking and being, like, bubbly and lively," and that's just, like, how again, like, it came from my sister, came from hospitality and just loving to connect with people and just building community, so I created, um, now 2 of my main pages, which is my Facebook groups, and now I have over 15,000 members. And it's all about the girl gang, and yeah, I like to say it, "Girl gang gang, let's go." All about, like, building authentic connections, and that we don't need to have this, like not like cattiness, but more of like, I'm a big believer about, like, abundance is everywhere. We don't need to be in competition with one another. We can help each other win and create those win-win situations. And then I just started being like, okay, I want to host my coffee and connections. And that's still what I do even now is every Thursday morning we would have, and I just kind of always let it with, you don't need to come with a mask on. You can be yourself. And that just showing up, like, you deserve a pat on your back because I get having social anxiety, I get that, and it just started flowing from there. So it just went from, like, copying connections, building the group, how can I be of service to you, what can we create together, and that in itself really developed, I guess, more of my path into leadership and what it meant to put your ego to the side and be like, how can I again serve? How can I make sure that this person who's involved in our community, that they're aligned in other ways and that's going to be beneficial for everybody. And I know with that in itself, that took me to be strong, to be like, oh, okay, they look good on paper, but does that mean that they actually walk the walk and talk the talk?
Right, right. When, through some of what I talked to you a little bit about, when we were messaging and then some of the research and stuff I was doing before we got on here, I know you've talked a lot about your kind of your health and your mental well-being and, your near-death experiences that you had, a lot of that. Was that happening? Did that happen prior to you building Be Lively?
No, it was daring. Yeah.
So what happened with all of that? And then how did that affect creating, I guess, like your position on creating Be Lively?
So starting with the car accident, so it was a hit and run, and the guy hit me going 100 miles like per hour. And I was in a Mazda, and that in itself also saved me because it was that, I guess, vehicle type had more metal around me, so that's what ultimately saved me.
Uh-huh.
But I was dead on record for 7 minutes, and we still don't know to this day who contacted 911. I woke up to the EMS, the EMT, and he was like, "Ma'am, you're bleeding. Like, don't move. I'm going to give you oxygen." And I just remember going in and out of consciousness. And the fact that, like, I died and me, I believe in a higher power. I believe in God and I believe in spirit. I believe in oneness. I believe in all of that. And the fact that God told me, being like, "Hey, it's not your time. I'm going to send you back." And when I first came back to life, like, honestly, I was really mad, really, really mad, really resenting spirit God. And I was just like, how dare you take me from a place that's purity. There's no ego, that no There's it's just pure, it's just pure happiness, pure light, pure joy. You get to see all of your family, you get to see, even, like, your pets that are also up in heaven. So, I was just left here on earth, and I was like, "So does this mean I still need to continue lively? What should I be doing that's on a bigger scale, and how can my message be portrayed that, like, spirituality and business is still a taboo topic?" And I just wanted to create something, and that's when the Legacy Conference came into fruition and to host it this year, and I was like, "I'm certified meeting planner, you want me to do what? In less than 6 months, and you want me to do all this?" And, like, I just have to trust spirit source blindly, and that because I just kept getting, like, in my dreams, like, all the right people are gonna come to you, the correct speakers are gonna be there, like, wealth building, everything, and I was like, "Okay." Like, I'm just gonna do this and do
No,
what
and
I'm great at, which is obviously building and
yeah,
bringing people together and, just trust that this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
yeah. When did that happen? When was that hit and run?
It was in 2024.
2024. That wasn't that long ago. Wow.
Yeah, and then 6 months later, I had my emergency surgeries during Thanksgiving week.
Wow. That's crazy. And when you yeah, I was wondering when you said a year and a half within each other, I was like, okay, like all
6
within.
months, literally.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is wild. How did you keep it all going? I mean, that's such a drain, not just physically, but like mentally. I mean, when you're healing from anything, I mean, I've never had like a massive nothing like what you're talking about. I mean, like, the worst thing I had was having an emergency C-section that I was not healing well from, and that
Yeah.
alone was months of recovery and the emotional drain and toll that it took on me too. I can't imagine 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. I was barely recovered in 6 months from an emergency C-section. So, how did that how did you do that?
Lots of different healing modalities, which I'll say that, and I didn't really rely on the heavy drugs that the surgeon, like, gave me and my doctor. A lot of times, their limiting beliefs was like, "Oh, no, you can't get back up and running in less than a couple of months, and you're gonna be on restrictions." And, yes, I was on restrictions, and was I mad that, coming from being super independent very early on, I was mad that I had to rely on people. And I was like, "This is crazy that I can't even do my own laundry." And they're like, "Yeah, you can't move your head and, like, you can't look down and do dishes." And, like, I have to wear these, like, blue blocking glasses so that I'm not you have to limit yourself when you have traumatic brain injury with headaches and
Mhm.
to limit, like, your screen time. And I was like, "How? I'm literally building Lively online even since COVID." So I was like, What? I was so that's why I was like, "No, no, 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 no. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to get myself to where I need to be." And plus my grandparents were still relying on me too to help them because they're 83 years old. And that was just my mindset where it's like, I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
I need to be up and running as quickly as possible. And
Yeah.
how do I do that?
Right. Do you think that you had a different mindset about how you needed to operate mentally prior to all of these accidents, prior to all of this medical than you did once you kind of were, like, pushing through it? What kind of beliefs were you operating under prior to that, that just kind of, like, shifted and changed as you went through all of that?
I didn't really have a lot of belief in myself and my capabilities of like how strong I truly was. And now that I'm able to like reflect and be like, wow, I really was resilient and I really did only had no choice but to take care of myself and keep a roof over my head. And when I started, um, Bella, she is my service animal. And she was my ESA. She was my emotional support dog. And when I went through the accident with emergency surgeries, I was like, I'm literally having to retrain everything mentally, physically, emotionally, training Bella to be my own like psychiatric service animal. And that also came with, wow, I'm way more empowered to also get to teach about that. About like, just because I looked fine doesn't mean that I am fine.
Visible disability.
Yeah, and I was just like, why is there like, I shouldn't feel ashamed for having a service animal.
No, yeah, absolutely. Did you to start with? Like, did that bother you to start with?
Yes,
Yeah.
because I was just like, was it more of a sense of I needed Bella to be of service to me when I'm more of her caretaker? I think just even from that shift of me being a caretaker towards my grandparents and always taking care of people to where I get to have us, Bella being my service animal. I get
Yeah.
to be not only like her, be there for her, but also what this means coming from a point to where I can talk about this and what I've been through and to help other people going through this experience and to let them know that it's okay to also ask for help, to seek help, and to even have where you're transitioning like your own dog from like a normal dog to an ESA to a psychiatric service animal.
Would, I know my oldest, was diagnosed with narcolepsy back about 7 years ago, and that really threw her for a loop. She wanted to go into the military as a doctor, like, that was her whole plan, like, that she had no other like, there was no plan B. That was what she wanted to do, and when you're diagnosed with narcolepsy, that's a, automatic disqualification for service.
Mhm.
So she kind of spiraled, but right around that time, just before her diagnosis, we knew something was wrong. She was dealing with what appeared to be severe anxiety and depression, and she couldn't sleep. And then sometimes she couldn't wake up. And then it was just this back and forth, like so many things that she just felt was like wrong with her. And I remember her asking me one time, she's like, kind of angry with God, things like, you were talking about on some of that too, and
Yeah.
I mean, she goes, "Mama," she says, "Why am I so broken?" Did you ever kind of feel that way going through all of that, that it's like, "Why is this happening to me? Why me?"
Yeah, especially with 3 times coming back to life.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, "Okay, I'm kinda done." Like, my body's done. But at the same time, God was like, "No, no, 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 like, this is for a higher purpose."
Yeah.
And I just kept thinking about also my baby sister too, and, like, about my grandparents and, like, how vulnerable they both were. And I was like, I need to have this self-reliance. What's a good word? That my fuel for purpose and impact and wanting to raise a collective, even just being on this podcast, like that was such a huge, big step for me to share more about my story And so again, it comes back with being empowered and to using your voice for good.
Yeah, absolutely. What are you really focused on the most right now inside Lively?
Legacy conference. It's a
Mm.
big undertaking.
Yeah.
Just because I'm welcoming so many souls that trust me and trust what I've been building and being so vulnerable with my storytelling, with what I've been through and what I've overcome. And I just I just know that this is what I'm supposed to do is like, yes, I'm organizing it, get everybody together, but just knowing that I get to have, I guess, like a foot or just kind of like, I'm rooting for you. We're going to do a lot of massive change. It might feel like a tornado's coming in and be like, root disruption. And then like, boom, like shifting you, like
Yeah.
shifting you into like your purpose. And I just feel like I'm a catalyst for that change for others, and I'm feeling really grateful that I get to be in this position and that I have healed and that I've overcome so much.
That's amazing. With going through all this, because you're quite young. I mean, it doesn't and going through and building all of this. Did you ever kind of come across the idea or you kind of have that internal feeling of like you're doing this, you're building this, but at the same time, it's like this, I don't know, I guess like more of like a feeling of like that imposter type thing, that imposter
Mhm.
syndrome thing of like, I'm doing this, but why are people going to listen to me? Why why
Yes.
why am I that one? I'm really trying to do this. I have this message to send out there, but then like who am I? Like why are they listening to me?
I think that's where like having a mask on sometimes, where it's just like I really want to showcase everything I'm doing, but I also really want to be a hermit and I just want to hide.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
me. I'm literally like both, where I'm like, it's this inner battle where it's like, I just wanna do me. I don't wanna have, like, all these awards. Like, I've never asked for any of my awards that I've received. I just love what I'm doing, and I fully believe in it. But then there's also, like, part of me where it's just, like, "Can we just pause and, like, not this forward for but, like, can we just, like, not focus on moving forward and, like, doing this whole legacy conference?" And that's what I was feeling, and now I'm like, "Okay, it's go time." Like, we've set a date for this conference, it's in June, and, like, we have a hotel, we have a whole agreement, and, like, all these things, and so that's why I'm like, "Okay, let's go."
Yeah. You do a lot of work with financial literacy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how, because I mean, there's a lot of things. I was going through the Be Lively website and I was kind of looking at a lot of the stuff that you guys have going on. You really kind of hit a lot of different areas. That's more than just, I think, the financial literacy. But what drew you to that? Because that really seems to be like a heavy focus in there, and a lot, some things of what I've kind of read and everything with you guys. What drew you to that part of your consulting and what you do?
I think just from I mean, my parents never taught me about financial literacy, even though my mom, like, worked for a bank. So and then my grandfather with business and with he's a CPA, and I was just like, "Why isn't some of these things, like, talking about, like, business credit and personal credit separate? And how can I get, like, a line of credit? Why isn't this being taught in schools? Or, like, how do you balance, like, your profit and loss sheet and all this other things that I'm just like, "What? Doesn't that" it wasn't even in my college it wasn't even at ACC where I went. Like, this was not taught. Yeah, and so then that's when I was like, there's gotta be other programs that I can either I have to create my own, which I ended up doing, and I went through the 10,000 Women's Goldman Sachs program,
Mhm.
and they really helped me develop everything, and then I think a couple of months later, I'm still the youngest on record to be published in academia for my financial literacy.
Wow.
And that came from I want other women to not always have to rely on their own husbands for income. They should have their own bank accounts and savings and have their own stocks and all this other stuff. And also to not be put in a position where you have to stay with someone just because of financials.
Gosh, yes. That's something that I think a lot of women get stuck into. And then they just feel like they can't do what's best for them. They can't leave. And the financial abuse that
Right.
ends up happening. And yeah, I've heard so many people, oh, I would leave, but I can't, I can't afford it. I can't support myself. If I were to leave, I'd have nothing, and that is really sad to think that you just stay with somebody because of the money, you know?
Yeah, it's awful. And I'm like, I just feel like nobody should also go through that. And that's why I created my program. And I was like, I want to make it super affordable. And even oftentimes I'm just like, hey, I'm just open to feedback. And like, is this amount of information, like, is it attainable for you to like remember? Is this easy enough to even like the language of it
Mm, mm.
that it's digestible for you? So yeah, so I think eventually it's going to turn into at least what I'm wanting out of that program is to maybe come up with like a guidebook or something so I can have all that information into one because right now it's just mini lessons.
How are you approaching it? What's different about your approach than how a lot of other advisors or a lot of other teachers and such are kind of focusing on financial literacy?
It's a lot of gatekeeping. And I felt like I was searching a lot on YouTube and there was a couple points where I'm like, ooh, this guy made a good point about how with business credit not to do P&Gs, not to personal guarantee it on your personal. And I was like, that's a golden nugget, but like that other person said the opposite. So there was like a
Is
lot of
that the
this like,
truth? Oh my goodness, yes, I see that all the time, and I have said that just in general with things with business. So, one of my big things with business, I'm great at operations, that is like my heart and soul is in operations, building systems, all of that kind of stuff. Love that. Despise sales. I hate it. But it's the same thing as you try to learn about different stuff. It's like, oh, well, you should do this. And then this one says you shouldn't do that. And then this one says, oh, yeah, no, absolutely do this. And they just like talk completely opposite of each other. And you have no
yeah,
idea. But it's the same thing with the finance stuff. All of the same thing. It's like nobody says the same thing. And it's like they put so much information is out there that when you go to try to learn something new, to help yourself and better yourself, it's like an overload of information and it's all conflicting.
yes. And that's where I was like, nope, enough of that. I want to make a clear blueprint of this
Yeah.
is your what is a 529 plan and that there's other options for like your kids instead of always having like this is only for, like school supplies and really you can use that money that's also tax free and then buy your kiddo a car. You can do that.
Wow.
Like
That's
stuff like that where I was like, "What?" So now it's like now with that information, now I know what to do to set up my own sister for success. So that's
amazing.
why I was like, this program that I've been building and fine tuning, I was like, now I get it because this is again for the greater purpose for more people to be more empowered with the decision making and your financials.
I love how you talk too about making sure you're using the vocabulary and checking in with people to make sure the vocabulary that's being used is digestible. Because I think a lot of people who are specialists in their areas, they get so wrapped up in trying to make sure that they sound smart that they forget who they're talking to.
Yes.
And it's kind of like you're teaching people who don't know what you're talking about, and you're using language that experts utilize. And there's a huge disconnect and gap in there. And then your average Joe just kind of gives up on trying to learn it because they feel like idiots just because you can't dumb down the language a little bit for lack, you know what I mean? Not that it's dumb to have to like dumb down the language, but yeah, that you're using more simplified, less jargon, industry jargon. So
Yeah, even for me, I'm not afraid to be like, "Hey, I really need you to simplify things full-fledged kindergarten style. Let's go."
I think I say,
I'm like, "Give me some symbols." Like, whatever it is.
yes,
I'm
my
okay with
favorite.
saying that and being like, "Hey, What you just said to me was total alien, but can we go back to kindergarten terms and where like this makes sense to me? Yeah.
I'm 5, please. It's like, yes. Explain it like I'm 5. I say that far too much than I probably would like to admit. Absolutely. No, that's amazing. I love that. When you've had, because you have had, like you talked about, all of these kind of awards and stuff like that that you've gotten, like, what was it, 19 special awards that I know that you
Mhm.
had. Has that given you, I mean, I know you haven't gone out searching for them. You said that. You haven't gone and like tried to get them. But when they've been given to you, has that given you any kind of like validation in what you're doing? Or has it just really just kind of been like, "Yeah, that's nice. Okay, that can go on the shelf over there, and I'm just gonna keep on trucking."
No, because I think that's having entitlement, and you should
Mhm,
never feel that way.
mhm,
And or to even harvest that attitude. I
mhm.
think you should always just come from like, "Hey, I did really good at this," and like pat myself on the back and like let's, again, keep moving forward. Put your nose down to what you're working on and then look up to see if anybody is there to like help you and support you. Yes.
Yeah,
I think even just winning anything, I think that's such a big honor. And it's a big nod to me, like, hey, Taylor, you are on the right path. Because there were times where I'm just like, where do I go with Lively? I see like 5 different paths, like financials, teaching this, and like, how do you build this system with the CRM and with the business credit and just all, or even branding and marketing. And now that I know, being like, okay, I want to work with the underdogs and I want to help more women like have financial freedom and to be set for life and to take care of their offspring and, the next generation. Like I truly believe even looking at Maddie's generation, I'm like, wow, that we really could have a female president. And we almost did with Kamala. So, it's still
yeah.
there. And I'm just like, yes, that purity is something to explore. And that's why again I advocate for people to invest in young entrepreneurs as well.
When you're building a lot of this, because what you're trying to build is such a powerful movement of trying to make sure women have this kind of independence and this freedom, and building something like the Legacy Conference. And I mean, you're really kind of creating this path for young women to not deal with the same thing that a lot of the older generations dealt with. What in that, because I know that as much as we try to make things better, and that's our goal, and that is, we're telling everybody you can do this, you can, da 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 da. And a lot of times we look on the outside still like, yep, we've got this. It's all good. We just keep trucking along. What parts of this still kind of make you feel like it's added pressure to you? That it's still something that you struggle with, like, that still makes you sit back and have to go like, "Okay, let me recenter and focus off of," what part of that is still maybe a little.
But that's where my advocacy for myself being like, okay, I can give them all the right tools and with the legacy conference and pray that the
Huh?
keynote speakers will
Yeah,
do a lot of the impact work as well. And with the other attorneys that I have for like wills and trusts coming in, I'm not responsible for other people's success. I can give them the tools, just kind of like that saying about leading a horse to the river to drink, but you can't make the horse drink.
yeah,
That's exactly where I'm at, where it's okay, it was part of my mission. I'm supposed to put all this together, bring people together, and let the impact and let it speak for itself. There's other part of me where the imposter syndrome does definitely sometimes put a part. I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and the way that I'm doing things and building things is going to speak for itself. And my words have done that. And with being invited on the podcast to share more of my story, it just validates me that I'm doing the right thing.
yeah, absolutely. The leading the horse to water and you can't make them drink thing, that's a difficult thing to wrap your brain around when you're trying to help people. Because when you're somebody that likes to help people, you're somebody that just has that desire. It's almost like you find yourself where you'll almost bend over backwards to try to do it. Like, to do that. Was that something that you used to do and then kind of realized, oh, wait, yep, no, I do have to adopt this philosophy over here and kind of protect myself? Did that happen for you? Were you just always kind of like protective of yourself in that aspect? Or was there kind of like you had to kind of like come to that?
I think with me, because I see the good and bad in people,
Mm-hmm.
and when I felt like kind of like that saying, like, three strikes, you're out, it was in that sense where it's like, I'm giving you all these opportunities and tools to better yourself.
Yeah.
And that even happened just recently with my former neighbor. I was guiding her to be like, hey, you can be your own boss. You don't have to. She has a really big, I guess, like background in medical. And I
Mm,
was like, girl, you can do consulting and help so many people with the knowledge that you have. And like, you should feel empowered. But again, she was like, I think I'm just going to go back to working with a hospital. And I was like, you know what? Okay. If that's what's meant to be, will be. I can only hold space for you and be of guidance whenever you need me.
Do you think that everybody, though, has the mentality or the fortitude to be an entrepreneur, though?
No.
No. Why do you think that is?
I believe that everyone is here for their own purpose and where they find it. Just like it takes special people to be a kindergarten teacher. Respect towards teachers, even during COVID with all the changes that they went through. That takes a special person. Same thing with surgeons. You have to have precision and deal with all the grueling hours and stuff that comes from the medical field. There comes like a time and a place where spirit and source is trying to show you, like, hey, go this way with this route, and you're going to meet someone who's going to help you. Or if you feel like, well, I never really had that type of support, that also comes with the mentality shift of being like, oh, I get to attract people who are going to help me.
Right. Right. That makes sense. Yeah, for sure. What do you believe about wealth and finances that most entrepreneurs get wrong?
That you have to have a lot of money to start your own business. That's so far from the truth. I started Lively with $500 and
Wow.
I've been growing it ever since.
Wow. What do you think that their mentality around that is? Why do you think they think it takes so much to get going? I mean, because obviously Be Lively's starting to boom. I mean, look at you and stuff. I mean, you're doing fantastic. So
Thank
what do
you.
you think that misconception is? Like where's the disconnect, I guess?
I think a lot of it is from old programming. Cause like with my grandparents, I grew up to like, you have to save every penny and like, don't go spending X, Y, and Z on shopping. And I'm like, why? This is gonna make me feel good. Like, look
Yeah.
at this bright pink thing. Like, it makes me feel good. Was it $30? Heck, it's the best $30 ever because it's one of my brand colors. Like that kind
Right.
of thing where it's like, what? Where is this like having to save every penny or like what if you don't get that raise or your job promotion? How about you ask for it? And
Mm,
be like, "Hey, boss, I really want to be in upper management. What can I do to put me in that position?"
mhm.
And be open and be receptive to what they say.
Mm. I think that is something that a lot of people struggle with, isn't it? Asking for what we want. Yeah. I would have struggled with that, especially in my 20s. Dude, I couldn't even ask to just sit there and be my own person in my 20s. You know?
Right?
I mean, like, I was so it was so hard. Like, I allowed people to put me into a box and like, was afraid to operate outside of the box that they put me in, you know? And I don't know why, like, I don't know what I thought bad was going to happen, but rejection maybe. I think that's the same thing with asking for what you want. You're afraid of the rejection from it. That is yeah, that is a big thing, and I think a lot of people should try to step that out, a little bit more. I remember my first person that got me to start kind of stepping out of that was my aunt, and my everybody because I played music, I taught music.
Love that.
Yeah, and my grandmother did too on my dad's side. And because we both played, we both taught, everybody put me into that box of like, well, then I must be exactly like her. I must like the same things, I must act the same way, I must, all of that stuff. So if like for real, like I wouldn't even wear stilettos because in my 20s because it was so different than what people envisioned me as, they and I remember talking to my aunt one time on my mom's side, and she just told me one time, she's like, if they sit there, if anybody has a problem with you wearing something as simple as a heel, as a stiletto, she's like, if you don't think that they did stuff like that in their 20s, if you don't think that they were their own person in their 20s and they try to tell you differently, she's like, F them. She's like, because they absolutely did.
Yeah, being a black sheep is not something to be ashamed of. It's actually something to like be like, yeah, I am different. You know that song, Yes, I'm different. Yes, I'm different.
Yep,
Like, like
absolutely.
that's my anthem. It's like, yes, be different because you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. So it's like, why stress about?
Yeah, absolutely. After she said that, I did. I started with that mentality, and I'll tell you what, my entire closet was filled with all kinds of different heels and all kinds of different that was like my thing. And that just became it afterwards. And I think I started kind of coming out of that more at that point. But I think that's hard because people get tired, they get worried about rejection. They get worried about what people are going to think about them for asking for what they want, for trying to attain what they want, for stepping out of the norm. And I think that's, as strange as it is to say, because I think what you're doing is so good and so needed,
Thank you.
you're pulling people out of the norm, of
Yes.
has been decided as this is just how it is, and you're saying no, it's not.
Yeah. No, it's not. We're going to keep on building, you know, the next president of the United States
Yep.
or just a girl who believes in herself. And that's what I want to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. How has success changed you as a person?
Lively's changed me in a multitude of ways. And where I am right now as a millennial woman and this ever changing life. I hope in this new chapter, because like I do want to be a mom and I do want to be married, that I mean, I'm going to continue building Lively till the day I die. I'm excited for how I'm progressing.
Mhm. Do you think that that's a interesting topic you bring up there? You're building Lively, you're pushing all of this, and a lot of people would say that, and I think it's starting to change a little bit, but a lot of people would say you can't be a successful businesswoman, a successful mother, and a successful wife. What do you think about that?
That's a bunch of baloney.
Well,
It is.
yes.
I'm like, no, I can like run laps around you. And a lot of my community will too, because we're not here for that. Again, that's old programming. No, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love too that you're building this network, bringing everybody together because having that like mindedness together, it's so much support. And you realize that you're not crazy
Yes.
for feeling, oh, I'm not the only one thinking this. I love it. What if you kind of like, like live, let's just say, and obviously it's not going to happen, but let's just say Lively disappeared tomorrow. What part of your identity would still remain untouched without Lively in it?
Oh, what would remain untouched? I don't know. I feel like I would morph myself into another brand and just keep it going. I'm like, I don't know, create something else. Cause
Yeah.
that's just how my mind works. I'm always gonna be creating. I'm always gonna do what I love to do. That's why I said it's a statement. I am going to continue building Lively till the day I die.
Yeah. You're a builder. That's the part that wouldn't change then. That would be your creativity and the builder part of you. I love that.
Yeah, which will take a strong man to even, be beside me.
Ye
I'm coming for my goals. I'm coming for the impact. I know what I'm built to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So when is this legacy conference again? When did you say it is?
June 5th through the 7th in Austin, Texas.
Okay, 5th through the 7th in Austin, Texas. Okay, I'm repeating that because I want to have that for my notes later.
Thank you.
So, okay, so that's going to be in 5 months, right? Right about 5 months. And so we know what's happening within the next few months, with that. So as you look out 12 months from now, what do you see yourself doing? And what feels maybe kind of feels a little heavy about it?
That I already know for next year that Legacy Conference 2.0, and that's going to be longer, more session packed. And I don't look at it as a daunting task. It's just more of like, okay, we got to step it up a notch. And my standards are increasing. But again, I just have that faith. Whoever's meant to be there will be there, and the support will come. And that's it.
Awesome. If growth, all right, so I'm going to kind of throw some future vision questions at you here.
Okay.
If growth were kind of effortless, like you didn't really have to do a whole lot to get it, where would that put you? Like, what would that look like for you that you didn't have to put a whole lot into it? Where do you see yourself? Like, what would be that instant, boom, this is where I'd be at,
Probably building a mom. Oh, because like I said, I want to be a wife and a mom.
right?
Probably building like a program for other moms and other boss babes. Just because I know I'd be toting my kid around just like what I would do with Maddie and just be like, "Hey Maddie, we're going to this event and even for the conference and like let's go, like pack your bag, kids, time to get." So I feel like I'm gonna be the same. Yeah. So it's just kind of like, don't have a choice. Let's go. We gotta be social.
Yeah, yeah. Do you find yourself to be more of an introvert than an extrovert? Like in your core, do you find yourself more introverted?
Yeah, I'm a hermit kid. But then I think Lively also made me be more lively and be the social butterfly because that's exactly my sister and my mom. That's just our personalities. But no, I definitely need some time for myself, like every week, and just being like, my gosh, I just helped so many people, and like, I need time out.
Sure.
And you're allowed to have those timeouts.
Yeah, how do you recharge yourself from that? Because I know I'm kind of like backtracking over here a little bit, but that is a good question. Like, I mean, you're building something, you're building this network, which is kind of very social,
Hmm.
for an introverted person that I know, like with myself, I get drained from lots of interaction. How do you recharge yourself to be able to keep doing this?
Yeah, spiritual hygiene is very important.
Mm,
Just keeping your place in your home, that it's a sacred space, that I have my favorite, I'm just gonna say it, my favorite like robe and like my like matching headband. I'm like, woo, I am spa days, let's go.
yeah.
But that's what I call self-care is yes, doing the bougie things and having your bougie robe and putting a candle on
Mm,
and then having your Epsom salt bath or your bath bombs and just taking that time for yourself.
it's
It's
that quiet.
crucial.
Hmm. Yeah. That's I think a lot of people we need that. And I think a lot of us though we feel like taking the time away to do that is selfish and we've got to get out of that mindset too because that's still just like you said that goes back to old things.
Programming. Mhm.
Yeah. You're really breaking this whole like old programming thing. Like I'm seeing this as like a theme through here. You're like screw the old programming. We need like to we're updating. We are putting in new software.
Yeah, new techniques of taking care of yourself.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. That's fantastic. So you're building this, you have the conference coming. How are you expanding your own authority from here? Because we have to like as we're building things, we build our authority. We have to get ourselves out there. We have to have people know who we are. And for them to want to come to us, they do have to kind of see us as that expert, that what we're doing. How are you doing that?
Stepping more into authentic leadership. And when I have my moments where I'm like, should I be speaking about this? Yes. That thought wouldn't have came up if it wasn't something I wasn't meant to like touch on. I feel like those moments where I'm like, okay, if I'm doubting it, then that really means I need to press play and say it.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Something that I've told my clients a lot because I get people that will, clients of mine that'll say, but, well, maybe I shouldn't say that because people might not like what I have to say about this, or people, that might turn people off from me or whatever. And I'm like, well, good. I'm like, then they're self filtering, you're pushing away the people that aren't in that mindset, that aren't kind of on that bandwagon with you. And the authentic you is pulling the people in that you're going to want to work with in the first place, and it's bringing the people in that are going to energize you and not suck and drain you dry.
Yeah, energy vampires are definitely a thing, and negative Nancy's
Yes,
are gonna come across somebody like that. But again,
absolutely.
having your boundaries and being able to disconnect and be like, "Hey, that's your opinion, you're entitled to it, but this is my truth and this is what I'm saying."
And I think another thing on that too is that, like, if you put yourself out there as being somebody other than who you are, and you kind of like, people get hooked into you with that persona, I guess. And then they actually meet with you. Like, they go ahead and hire you as the consultant, or they go ahead and whatever, you know, and then they realize, wait, that's not who you are. You're this person. I feel like that's an instant trust breaker too.
1,000%. I think a lot of it was why I thought it was so important to share about my car accident and going to trauma therapy and with my healing journey and sharing that so openly on Facebook and even Instagram, because I know I'm not the only one that's been through this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's one thing that I know for me. It's one reason why I really like doing this show. And why I like, why when I talk to the guests and stuff when I'm beforehand is like, hey, don't hold back on anything. If you have something to say it, you know, um, is because so many people that are successful, they really come out and they talk about the success. They talk about the pleasures of the success. They talk about things like, almost like, they just talk about what it is to be on top of that mountain. That it's, it's like those Instagram models when you see them on there, and they're with these beautiful shots and all of this kind of stuff that they're doing, and then but when you actually see it, it's nothing like what the picture actually is, you know? And same thing, you talk about what's up there on that, being on top of that mountain, but you don't tell people what it was like to get there. You let them think that it was just an overnight success. You let them think that it was easy breezy, or that you just had, just give it the old 1, 2, and there you go, it's all good. And it gives people this false
Hope
sense of,
and narrative.
yeah. And then when they aren't successful that first try, then it's like they beat themselves up over it, like, oh, well, geez, okay, I must really suck, because I'm struggling so much. And these people over here, they didn't. you know? So I think being authentic and telling your story, and being honest about it, and honest about the struggles, and then showing how you've gotten through them to being on that mountaintop. That journey is the important part, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, no, you have to be the first one to take that step and let others follow. Because that can be like, wow, she was so transparent, just like I am with everything that we talked today. I shared a lot about my story and a lot of the struggles and even my mental struggles. A lot of people don't know that about me because they're just like, Taylor's naturally strong. She's very resilient. Like, she's a baddie. And
Yeah,
I'm just like, thank you, people. But you
yeah,
don't realize all the things that I
yeah,
went through to get where I am. I
yeah,
go first, you follow me. That's why I was like, "Yep, I'm gonna show up today, and I'm just gonna be present, and I'm gonna speak my truth, and I'm gonna own everything that I'm doing."
yeah,
And that's because I want somebody else to do that too.
yeah, absolutely. So let's, well, before we go on to kind of like some of the closing questions, what do you want people that to know that maybe we haven't touched on yet today? Like, what is something that maybe we haven't said yet, or something, a topic we haven't hit on yet, that you're kind of like, wait, I want to make sure we get this out there.
I came from a very successful family. There's been some narratives that like my grandparents handed me everything and same with my own parents and it's like nope, I started everything from scratch. I know others out there in this universe that are listening to everything and resonating that they can do it too. You don't need a lot of money to start your own business and you will find your own tribe with this journey that you're going to be setting on.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, you started Lively with $500, and I have Cypress Media Productions, and we started that with about 700. And I'm right there with
And
you.
that's a pat on your back too, girl. But like I've been saying, like, yes, like give yourself your flowers.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, like the online world has made it, I think, a little different than the old programming, like you said, because it used to be you had to have such tangible items to be able to start a business with. You had to have a building, you had to have inventory, you had to have, all of these different things that really did take a lot of money to get something started. The world's just different today. It doesn't require the same thing, but it does require some fortitude, and yeah. So I feel you right there. Absolutely. So let's move on to a few questions I have as we kind of come around to closing this out a little.
Yeah.
What is one belief that, let's say, 5 years ago that you had that you don't hold on to any longer?
That that lively came to fruition because it was more than just my purpose. And what I mean by that is from an innocent soul like Maddie to come into fruition. That was also the wants and desires of my parents. They never meant for me to be the only child for as long as I had. And what I don't, I guess, like, morph is like, it's not just because of Maddie and what I built for her. I don't resonate with just being like, oh, well, Taylor's only doing Lively because of X, Y, and Z. No, this is a greater picture, a greater purpose. And again, it's not about me, it's about other people that are coming into my ecosystem and that I want to invest into them
Right.
and how we can create another win win. And we can all be successful. We just need to work together.
I like that. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. What is a book that changed your thinking?
Hello, Mel Robbins. I
Wow.
love her podcast.
I love it. Oh, that was a quick answer.
Yeah, I'm like Mel Robbins all the way.
Absolutely. Right there.
Just to let them think that, like, let them create their own narrative in their head, like, "Oh, Taylor, oh, Lively, blah, blah, blah,
Mm,
blah, blah."
mhm.
Mm, just
Let
let
them.
them.
Yeah. That's the, like, famous quote, "Just let them." Mhm.
Bye.
Yeah. Exactly. It's not worth, don't let them have that free rent in your head, right? Yep. I love that. Okay. So, do you think that high achievement is something that's just hardwired into specific people, or do you think that it's something that people build?
No, because definitions of success is defined by that person.
Okay.
So if they're like, "I'm only successful because 'cause I'm a 1,000,000 earner, I'm in the top 1%." I'm like, "Cool beans." That was never my intention with Lively. My intention was I wanted to build an ecosystem around Maddie that if something was to happen, that my legacy would live through her,
Uh-huh.
period.
You do that, then you feel you have succeeded.
Yes.
Mhm. Whether that was a $1,000 company, $1,000,000 company, or a no dollar company, you've built that for her. That's your
Yeah,
success.
and I'm done. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's my success. If I can just help one person, then that's even more worth it. So that's why how I see this is kind of like yes, it is my own ecosystem, it is my own empire. But the amount of like joy and happiness that I get to hear from my clients and even just one recently where they were getting like 0 views on their social media and they're like, I'm just posting and posting and posting. And I'm like, yeah, but why should people invest into you? Why is your product the best of the best? Like, give a little storytelling. Like, why I love you guys is because You're veteran owned. You're a badass. You literally fought for our country. Like, you should be saying that. Nowhere in your social media says that. So
Yeah.
I'm like, that's
Yeah.
why you have the disconnect because you don't know who you're talking to and you should be telling them.
Hmm. Yeah. But it's not there. There. Well, that would be like their clients not learning who they are, right? Like
Right.
as a person. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a thing too. I think like there is that misconception about what is success because there's so many people that are high achievers that have bought and sold, $100 million companies and this, that, and the other. And they are still some of the most unhappy people that you have ever come across. I've met some of them and it's just like they are still such miserable people, you know? And now there's some of them that are just super happy and they've got it all, like it's life is great. But there's others that just because you're financially high achieving, I'm with you. That doesn't necessarily equate to success because
Right.
what is that if you're,
Especially when your money can be gone tomorrow.
mm-hmm, then
What
what's
are
left?
you leaving behind?
Yeah. What's left?
Mhm.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. All right. So now here's the real thought tickler that,
Okay. I'm ready.
okay. So we're going to fast forward now to the end of your life
Oh,
and everyone has forgotten everything that you've ever taught. But you get to have one final message that they will remember forever. What is that going to be?
be well, be
Be-
you, and be lively.
I love that.
Yeah, be yourself and take care of you.
Yeah, I love that. No, this has been a wonderful conversation, Taylor.
That's been so good. Yes, thank you for building this platform and for allowing me to share all my truths and my story. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on because like I said, this has been an excellent conversation and I'm so blessed every time people like you say yes to coming on to the show. So thank you. And where can people find information about the Legacy Conference?
BeLivelyCompany.com.
All right. And if they want to get in touch with you about your consulting, about your, financial literacy, all of these other things, where should they go for that?
Same with on the website. And Instagram and Facebook are always my top two social
Okay.
media platforms that they can just DM me.
Okay. All right. And what we're going to do is we are also going to take those links and those to your platforms and stuff. We're going to put them down below in the show notes for this episode. So they can just click to those and get to you there as well. So,
Yay, perfect.
all right. Well, thank you guys for listening. Remember to like and subscribe and go over there and find my friend Taylor and follow her and get hooked up on belively.com as well. All right. Thank you guys. And that's
Thank you guys.
so today. Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you, Brett.
You. All right. Thank you, Taylor.
All right, bye.